This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monte Moore with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can also follow along and subscribe at thetalkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Well, welcome to another episode.
We're back, and we're not quite 6 feet apart here.
I know. Get away. Well, I'm so glad to not be quarantined anymore. My nephew is born, and my mama's doing well, so I'm excited that we're all back together here, and we've got some special guests in the house, don't we?
Yes, we do. Mr. Jason Hoover, of course.
Hello,
Jason.
The so now good to be family back. Member.
So good to have you back.
I know. Yes, I felt like I was so far away.
This whole world has become a Zoom meeting, you know?
I know. I've kind of got. What do you think about those Zoom meetings, though? Hey, I don't know if I'm going to let them go.
I wish I would have invented it, is all I can tell you for sure.
Yeah, I have been driving on now. I just filled my gas tank up for the second time since COVID started. So, thank you, Zoom. Thank you, Zoom.
Yeah. So what about that beautiful office you have? What is that like? How big is that? 20,000 square feet or something?
Oh, I have 9,000 square feet. I welcomed everybody back. We're doing Spirit Week this week, and we're having a lot of fun. I got masks for everybody. I want to make sure if they want to use it, great, it's there. So I'm giving everybody the option. But we're following safety measures in our office. But we're having a lot of fun. Today was tropical day, so but just bringing a lot of excitement back. But you know what? We've had 2 record-breaking months in the mortgage industry through a pandemic, and they all said, Carey Ann, do you really want to break our stride? We should all still be working from home.
I think they might have something.
Yeah, and then the boys were like, Carey Ann, I've been wearing shorts for the last 60 days. It seems to be working. I don't think a dress code is necessary at this point.
I think you need to pay attention to that. I'm on their side. Absolutely.
So we'll see.
It's sort of like wearing the jersey at every single game. You know, if it's working, don't mess with it.
Right.
You don't mess with it.
So, I'm hopeful. We'll have to regroup and see how it all looks here.
Well, Carey Ann, it's really great to have you back. You know, Jason and I have been toughing it out without you here personally. And it's just good to see you.
Well, thanks for taking the lead last time. I know I was at another hospital with my mom, and so I'm thankful that you guys took the lead. But excited to be back. I missed.
So grateful for the good news there with your mom.
Yes, I think we've decided, or she's decided. She went to Houston, MD Anderson. Heard so many great stories after I posted it on social media. I had a lot of positive feedback. People are messaging me left and right how much success they've had there, and so I think she's going to be making some decisions to maybe move out to Texas for a bit and get some healthy decisions, and follow suit with some good chemo, and then we'll follow the path. But the doctor was really optimistic that she can live a happy, full life. We just have to treat it the right way.
Shout out to Meg Sear, and thank you.
Huge inspiration. I love my mama. Mama Sear.
Absolutely.
Good girl. So
she just has a bright spirit, even through all of this. I just love it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I've learned a lot through this whole process with my mom, and she is one to, when she talks about never let your sparkle dull, never let something dull your sparkle, that really, you can wake up and just it brightens your whole day. So we all go through in this industry really difficult times. It may not be cancer. It may be that one deal that fell apart, or it may be, just something in general that can get you down. Right. But just to think about how you can work through that and brighten somebody else's day and life with your own sparkle. Here, I know we just want to continue to reach out our hand, help another, make a difference for somebody in what we do. So Amen. She's amazing. But we are doing this great podcast because of our amazing sponsor. So we want to give a shout out to Music City Removal. They are the #1 junk removal service in Nashville. From residential, commercial, and construction, they're experts in ridding you of junk. Their costs include labor and dumping fees without any hidden or added expenses. Whether you need a full clean out or just one item removed, they have you covered.
The Music City Removal team knows the importance of respect and trust while in someone else's home. They understand the inconvenience of junk left behind by previous homeowners and tenants and are determined to provide an affordable and customer-focused junk removal service that puts you first. For a free on-site estimate, just go to musiccityremoval.com. That's musiccityremoval.com.
Yes, Music City Removal, because clutter ain't cute.
Yeah, we've missed you saying that so much. When Jason said it, just wasn't the same.
That was Jim. That was Jim that said it.
That's right.
But I still agree. It just wasn't
the
there.
same.
No.
I love it.
Hey, so we need to introduce our guest today.
Yes.
I mean, the real estate professionals that are listening to this podcast, you are going to be grateful for this one, I'm telling you, because Mr. Grant Castle with Punchlist is, I mean, it's changing the way we do business here at Realty One Group Music City, and I'm so grateful for you, Grant. It's good to have you here,
Welcome.
brother.
Thank you. Glad to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
He got the ovation.
Yes, he did.
I love it.
Oh, man, you must be all right.
So, Grant, share a little bit about Punchlist, and is it here locally in Nashville?
We are. We're headquartered in Charleston. The company was founded by a custom home builder and a real estate professional, and designed to answer the questions around what happens when you get an inspection.
Ooh, yeah.
So Grant, let's back it up a little bit first, and let me share this part, because as everybody around this table will attest to, especially Jason and I, selling the home is part of the equation, but not even half the equation, really, in a good market. The other, of course, 3/4 of the equation is getting it to the finish line. Mm-hmm. And getting through the inspection process is such, I mean, to me, a lot of the times that's the bigger deal, especially when the home hasn't been looked at by a third party, like an inspector, for any length of time, 5, 10 years, whatever. And then what happens? Then all kinds of fear sets in. And here's the stage that is why I like you, and I'm so grateful for Punchlist, okay? Here's the stage. You have an inspector inspecting a home that was man-built that wants to stay out of court, okay? He wants to stay out of court. So what's he going to do to stay out of court? In a litigious society, he's going to mention everything. Jason, you've seen some of these inspection reports. They're as long as my arm. Okay?
I've been a seller with one. It was like 6, 7, 10, 12 pages.
If you print some of these out, it's like killing a small tree.
Oh, it's
in words I don't even understand, too.
Yeah, that's on purpose.
Oh.
Nobody understands it.
But understand, that inspector is simply trying to note everything and anything that could be wrong with this property, because he wants to stay out of court.
Sure.
And of course, the good inspector wants to educate the buyer of what they're buying and be mindful of maintenance items in the future and so forth. But then here's what we have next. We have a lot of times a agent, no offense to any agents out there that maybe haven't been in the business very long, but instead of managing those expectations and saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, let's focus on the things that matter most. Let's focus on safety. Let's focus on structure. Let's focus on mechanical. Let's make sure the home is functioning properly, but it's not brand new now. Unless it's brand new, of course, that's another story. But let's not hold it up to a bar that no home can be held up to. But yet, that's what happens a lot of times. And so, the inspector not being real familiar, or not inspector, but the agent not being familiar with the process, hands the report over to the other side and says, "Hey, take care of everything." And that's where the relationship starts taking a real fast dive, looking like that. Okay, because I know personally when I get a report from the other side that is, there's a screw loose on the door latch, that kind of stuff.
But it's in a language that made it seem so grander than it was.
Absolutely.
And my husband would say, Carey Ann, that's just a screw.
Yes,
on that.
exactly.
Meaning to me, I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with her.
Yes, you need a new Johnson rod. Your Johnson rod's broken. They're saying things that you're not sure if that's real or not, And so then you're supposed to heal those, that scenario and keep it together, because now you've got a buyer who's afraid, and because of the massive report, you've got a seller who's experiencing all kinds of anxiety. What do you mean my home? My home is perfect. It's been standing here the last 20 years. Why now suddenly all these things are supposed to be wrong? So it creates this sudden alienation of both sides, and so difficult then to work through. So can you imagine, real estate professionals out there, can you imagine this for a second? I want to set the stage for you, Grant, because honestly, I am so grateful for your service, brother. I can't even tell you. So here's the stage. You've got, I mean, here's one example. You've got a seller wanting to sell as is, and of course that freaks out the buyer. Well, they must know something that I don't know, and then, well, you know, I can't get a hold of my handyman to come out and look at this list and all this kind of stuff. What if you could send that inspection report and that request for repair to a company called Punchlist, and within 48 hours, they gave you a written estimate of the things that were needed. I mean, not things were needed, but the cost of doing these repairs. And what if they allowed you to pay for it at closing? I mean,
what?
Yes. I mean, it's amazing.
That's a game changer.
Oh, it's a game changer. Are you kidding? We have so many of our agents now have really embraced Punchlist. We're so grateful for you guys being brought into our life here at Realty One Group Music City, because not only have you given us, you know, glasses into is it serious or not, because we're not contractors, most of us here in the company, most realtors are not, and to have that third party, which is represented by real contractors with real licenses, with a real warranty. You actually guarantee your work for a year, I understand?
We do. So all of our contractors are licensed and insured. They also all carry workers' compensation, which is a step beyond the requirement for an individual.
Most of what we have do those repairs doesn't. You know, they don't. And so can you imagine those listening, can you imagine being able to forward the report to a third party who's going to give you an estimate of those numbers, and then you can pick and choose what you want taken care of. They'll come in before closing, take care of the problems, and then bill you at closing. It takes all that fear away.
Well, that's perfect, because so many people have the equity in the house that they're selling, right? And they don't have any other cash. Or let's say the seller's not willing. I've been in situations where I, as the lender, have been willing to cover the cost, you know, and then credit it back or charge it back to the buyer, you know, at time of close. So this would be a huge win for that scenario as well. So wow, I'm excited to hear more.
You see why I'm so excited about what these guys are bringing to the table. I mean,
it's like you said, game changing.
It saves so many of our transactions already, man. I can't thank you enough.
No, thank you, and that's the part of it that is really the most rewarding. We're the party of the transaction that really talks about the realities of the property. Okay, so quick example. One of the things you often see on an inspection report is, let's say, step cracking in a foundation wall. We can go into that situation and evaluate it. 99.9% of the time, we're going to make an estimation that it's normal. Guess what? Normal for a structure this age. There is no ongoing issues. Monitor if you like, but this is okay. We also have conversations with the buyers and sellers about good, better, best. And Monte, you touched on the hot buttons for me. Mm-hmm. If it's something that can be deferred or something that someone's DIY inclined to take care of, that's great. I tell people we're not interested in doing all of the work. We're interested in doing the right work. And that depends on the circumstances. And every deal is different. And every set of participants is different. So the things that aren't negotiable in my mind are safety, things that are going to cost more money down the road if you don't take care of them, things that are going to affect the quality of life in that property. Those are all things that I strongly recommend that people get done, whether we do it or not.
Right. So today's an example. We closed on a property on Old Hills Road. You know what I'm talking about. The owner had bought the home. It was built in the 80s, had owned it all this time. The original owner has passed away. The daughter's been living there and trying to sell it over the last several months. When I said, have you had any third parties under this home any time that you recall? No, but Dad built a really good home. I said, I'm sure of that, but has there not been any third parties that would look at it with an objective eye under this home? And I said, you know, in all sincerity, I'm concerned about that, because no telling what an inspector can find if a home's been standing there for 30 or 40 years and nobody's been, you know, looking at it from that objective vantage point. The buyer had the inspection done. The inspection came back with, you know, fairly significant items, you know, somewhere around $3,000. But when she saw the list and then she saw your estimate to take care of the list, she said, "Thank God."
It looked more overwhelming than it was from a price standpoint.
Yeah, she was overwhelmed when she saw the list, but when she saw that what a professional was going to take care of it for, and that she could pay for it out of the closing, suddenly I'm her hero again, and I love being the hero. I just love
you do love being the hero. I love that.
Well, that is such a fantastic part of this. Is it does make you the hero realtor.
Yeah,
and people are just going to be loving you so much more because it takes off a lot of stress. They see a lot of items. They're thinking, okay, I've got to get everybody, figure out who's going to take care of what.
Right.
And here it's like it's a one-stop shop. So it helps all parties involved.
Question. So does the inspection give you a estimate of cost to repair? Does an inspection do that too?
No.
Okay. So what I find then for me is when I was selling my house, it was more of a cut and paste. I swear it was a cut and paste from the inspection to the last page of the contract or a repair document, right? And then they came up because of the amount of units or things that need to be completed on this number that when we looked at it and started understanding the definition of what that word really meant, we're like, that's like 25 cents, right? Like that could be fixed by any person, right? So that's really where you come into play to share that that's really maybe not the true cost, right? So could that be someone, I as a seller hire you as well, meaning who is hiring you?
Both sides of the party. So we'll do a pre-listing evaluation, whether formal or informal, to talk about the touch points on a property before it hits the market, and then offer an estimate for those repairs.
That's exciting too. That's great.
One of the things that's interesting, after the property is under contract, we actually take that inspection report, pull the description and the pictures from that, and put it into a digital document that can either be a PDF or interacted with online on the web. So we talked about cost and about deciding what do we want to repair and what do we not want to repair. You can actually interact with this document online and remove or add items.
Okay.
They don't go away forever. It takes them out of the cost, and you can make those decisions. And then when we do the work, you have before and after pictures. You have a description of the actual work we did, and that is a document you can take to closing that represents a 1-year warranty to the buyer.
And do you guarantee, so let's say you share with me it's going to cost the $3,000. Is that a guarantee? Do you get in there and think like, oh, what you thought was going to cost more? How does that work?
Well, so it is an estimate.
Okay.
A lot of times if it's a complicated circumstance, we'll recommend a walkthrough.
Okay.
So for example, let's just say there's a little rot on a windowsill.
Sure.
We don't know what's behind it.
Right.
I would say that in my experience, we are at or below cost 90% of the time, but we do run into circumstances where there's extra. I'll give you a quick example. A property we worked on Monday, dispatch to, a little bit of rot underneath the roof line on a dormer eaves. And from the pictures, it didn't look like much. Really minor. Let's go fix it. The seller is an agent as well. We get there and we find out that the 18 foot by 18 feet long of roof line is rotted to the point where we need to remove 2 feet of shingles, replace the sheathing underneath, and rebuild that roof line. But if we leave it, it's not safe, and it'll just continue to degrade.
Right.
So oftentimes we have to be the bearer of bad news, but that's my job. Our job is to be the subject matter experts and to offer the information so people can make informed decisions about their property. And that doesn't always mean we do the work again, but sometimes we're also the resource. That's the most important thing.
Well, truth will always lead. So
right.
That's what I'm believing.
And I've got a question. So if I am a listing agent and I have a seller, are you saying that you guys will go in, or do we need to get a pre-inspection and then pass that along to you?
We do offer a pre-listing inspection service where we do an evaluation of the property. So less an inspection, more an evaluation.
Okay.
It's got components of an inspection, but it's focused on, say, aesthetics, on some of the touch points that Monte hit, things that'll scare off a buyer. So let's think about those. Rot.
Yeah.
Any water issues, any potential electrical issues. But it's also good to have visibility into any major system issues before you get to closing.
Right.
Because now we're in a hurry.
Right.
And knowing is half the battle, right?
Yeah.
So in that scenario, though, so let's say you come and you share with me, ideally to sell this property, you most likely want to fix A, B, and C. So we have the discussion, we agree on the price. You come before I list the property and fix A, B, and C, and then you charge me when I eventually sell it, or how does that work?
No. So with the pre-listing product, that's paid
in advance
at the completion of the work.
Okay. So share a little bit more about deciding and doing the work and then paying at closing. What's the parameters, the guidelines?
So, really simple process. I mean, you can probably ask anybody in this office that's used our product, and I've used it myself many times.
Yeah.
But really, literally 5 minutes. So you enter our web page, you enter the address of the property to make sure it's in our service area, which is most of greater Middle Tennessee. So Rutherford County, Williamson, Davidson County.
Do you go north on the north side, Sumner County?
We don't at this point.
Okay.
But we will.
Yeah.
You know, we're headed that direction. And you enter the contact information as you decide the roles. Buyers.
And I'm sorry. What is the contact site so that people can writing that down?
So punchlistusa.com.
Punchlistusa.com. Okay.
And after you enter the contact information, you have an opportunity to upload the inspection report.
Okay.
And we also have a page where we ask for repair, addendum, or notes. It looks like that is necessary. It's not. It's us requesting additional information so we can give the most accurate estimate.
I mean, think about this. They're making an estimate based on pictures and descriptions, so forth. So the more that you have, the more accurate you're going to be.
Absolutely.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense.
And I am also always available in this market to do walkthroughs or to take phone calls and answer questions. It's probably the most rewarding part of this role that I have is to be that resource for agents, whether it's giving them an opinion on a structural engineer's report or talking to a buyer about opportunities to improve their property on their own or passing on resources to do that. That's kind of the value add. While we're not focused on the transactional component of it, although efficiency and repeatability and transparency is really built into our product. We're more focused on kind of long-term relationships and adding value to the transaction.
Perfect. So
And back to the experience today, Carey Ann. One thing I loved about because we sat here and asking my client, so how was your experience with Punchlist? And she goes, it was really great. He was really nice and he was on time and it was just really wonderful. And I said, well, what about the charge? And she goes, well, I thought they were going to charge more because, the original estimate was, I think, for around $3,200, $3,300, and the final cost was like $2,600. And then I find out you guys did more than what you were even supposed to do. So, how do you, that's just awesome. That's just awesome.
wow, going above what you promised.
So you did, my point is,
Love it.
you could have charged her $3,200 or whatever the original, because she had agreed to that.
Right.
But you came in and gave her a real number that was based on the real experience you had with that house.
Absolutely. Anytime we can find a circumstance where the repair isn't necessary, that's good news for everybody. And the focus is on quality. The focus is on partners on the construction side that are professionals.
That's great.
That are quality first and skilled. And I'll put our quality up against anyone in the trades for sure.
And I want to highlight that because that is big. Because there's a lot of people out there that it's how can I get this done cheaply? What's the
Shoddy.
lease? Yeah, and then you're going to pay for it double time on that. So and I as a realtor putting my name on something, I appreciate that tremendously.
Well, some people don't even want the repair done because they're concerned about who's going to be doing the repair. Right. They're like, just give me the money, in return or whatever. So going back to that process, so it was really easy, right? So I uploaded the information. So how long from the time I upload it do you give me back an answer on your estimates? And does that cost me anything to get that review?
So for Realty One, there's a 24-hour turnaround. For our usual clients, it's a 48-hour turnaround. Okay. We do work on weekends. And then if a person wanted to get a 24-hour turnaround outside of Realty One, that would cost them $49.
$49. Okay, very good. So so the full 2-day turn time doesn't cost anything for you to review?
2 days is so much better than waiting for Billy Bob, to get his Sister Sally Sue, there
absolutely.
with the hammers and so forth. And no offense to Billy Bob and Sally Sue, but that's what we've been using sometimes or tempted to use in the past. And not only are we subject to that minimal schedule, that difficult schedule sometimes, all in the name of saving a few dollars, I do try to help our agents manage the expectations. Look, they can't be the cheapest deal out there and not provide this, okay? But going back to what Jason said, what is the value of your reputation? This is an extension of who you are. This is just like Carey Ann with CMG is an extension of who we are. That's why I promote you so much, Carey.
Yeah.
And you know that because I don't ever have to apologize for anything. The same way with the Punchlist group is you can rest assured that it's going to be professionally taken care of and warranted for a year.
Warranted
Nobody
for a
ever
year?
does that.
That-
Billy Bob
that's
doesn't do that.
That's
wow,
amazing. Yeah.
that is
No.
amazing. Absolutely. So now, after 2 days, you give me the list, right? So now I know, or I see the total cost. So talk me through and walk me through. I've decided now to go in business with you. How long does that process take?
So we are typically, one of the questions when we get the estimate request is when's closing?
Yeah.
How soon do you want the repairs? So that helps tee us up for those schedules. The other component of it is as soon as you touch the button that says approve and schedule, you will be contacted by one of our teammates in Charleston to set scheduling.
Okay.
I would say that even at our current velocity, we are able to get into the office or into the house within the next week.
Okay.
And we're scaling and adding resources as necessary, but that's our goal, just as quick as possible.
So is there any guidelines or parameters from the time I'm closing? Because you're allowing me not to pay until I close. So what if, does closing have to be within 30 days? Like, do you have specific guidelines there?
We don't, but typically closing is within 30 days.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's exceptions.
Mine wasn't for 2 months, and so I didn't even order the things to be done until then, keeping that in mind, managing those. And part of it was, I didn't want to do those repairs if we weren't closer to closing, knowing
Right.
it was going to happen, because another inspector could come back with another list of, totally different. So there was, that's part of managing the process, I think, as a professional, is that you wait till you're, within that 30-day window, and then work with your schedule.
Absolutely, and the more visibility we can have into that schedule, the better set will be. I want to touch on one back to warranty. One of the things that we see a lot more of today are buyers calling Punchlist after the transaction and saying, "Hey Grant, can you do a walkthrough with me at the house? I want to decide what we want to fix and what we don't want to fix,
Okay.
and have you guys do it." So that's sort of
Because you already did the pre-work?
yeah,
Okay.
Or sometimes they negotiate some money instead of doing the work.
Exactly.
That's what
Oh, okay.
So I had one of those a couple months ago, and one of the projects on that list was to repair a sticking French door to a patio, and so we did some work adjusting hinges and shaving off some material off the threshold, and then the next week it rained. And it rained and it rained. That old wood door swelled. I got a text message from the homeowner at 8:30 at night. I replied to him and said, "Hey, we'll be out later this week to fix it." We went out and fixed it. And it was a situation where the door was reaching the end of its life cycle,
Sure.
but we'd already had that conversation with the homeowner. So he understood that we were going to remove some material from this door so it functioned for the time being. We were going to install a threshold so it would still seal when it got cold and it shrunk, there wouldn't be daylight under
Okay.
it. But the other part of that conversation was to the homeowner was, "Hey, why don't you plan on replacing this? It's reaching the end of its surface life downstream. And, here's something to put on your list of things to do later." But that's the kind of follow-up that's critical for us. Don't ignore the call. Go back
Right.
and fix the problem and tell people the reality about their homes and the components of their homes that need to be addressed.
Very good. Now, let's say that the seller is one that does not want to fix any repairs or pay for anything. However, I'm doing a type of loan that's requiring A, B, and C to be done, right? It's a requirement for the loan itself. So I personally call you and I go through that process. Is it a situation that the buyer can pay that? Meaning
Yes.
it doesn't have to be from the seller. So
Yeah.
buyer could potentially pay that. And then let's talk about, because it doesn't happen to me because I don't miss closings, but there's
right.
rumor out there that some people do and some loans don't close. And due to COVID, there have been some delays, with some people being furloughed, et cetera. So that closing date that you thought was closing in 30 days, the 28th of the month has come and now has been missed. What happens in that situation?
We're going to communicate. We're going to be as flexible as we can be. We don't typically have collection issues. I mean, things happen. And one of the things that's nice about our company culture is we're going to see nuance and we're going to be flexible. and we're going to participate in a fashion that adds value. So if that means closing gets bumped, we're not going to jump off and reach conclusions that aren't necessary.
Right.
We're going to communicate, and we're going to.
Don't you love the guy's spirit?
I know. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing.
That's what took me the next step. Is okay. We need to check this guy out. Check this company out. Here's the bottom line, guys. I've said this for decades. It's really hard to find good people to take care of small jobs because they're busy taking care of big jobs where they can make a lot more money. Okay, that's just reality in our industry, and it's usually the small jobs that we find ourselves needing somebody to take care of, and then of course you can't get them, within the next month to take care of them, or they won't return the call, or because they're busy, because they don't have the support that a real company would have. Okay, because somebody's trying to save a couple bucks. But again, I've always been, every time you guys have used, or that we've used these guys, Grant, I've been very, very impressed with the pricing. I would have thought you would come at a higher price, to be honest with you. And then for you to come in at lower than what was estimated and do extra things for my client, that just shows a high level of integrity.
Wow.
How does everybody get a hold of you? Let's make sure that they can do that, okay?
So the best way to reach us is punchlistusa.com. And then I am here in Nashville, always a resource. So you can reach out to us through that website and then interact with me. I get text messages and phone calls and emails from agents on a regular basis. I work agent hours. We're always off the clock, but we're always on the clock.
Absolutely.
So that's punchlistusa.com.
Yes. It takes a village, right, to close the transaction.
Oh,
and you need to
it
surround
really
yourself,
does.
for all the agents listening, with, true professionals, and to know that we have one right here. I'm so excited that we got to meet because, being in the lending institution, we've got a lot of people that don't want to do anything, and I'm required to, they have to be done. The repairs have to be done for the particular loan. So we're going to be close friends there, Grant. So this has just been a lot of fun having you here. Hopefully it opened a lot of eyes. You did a great job setting the stage there.
We're grateful.
Bonnie.
Very grateful.
Thank you.
And Jason, always good to see you here.
Same here. Thank you for allowing me to keep coming back.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We just appreciate all of our listeners. We can't wait to see you next week. For more episodes, don't hesitate to reach out to talkmusiccity.com. We'll see you next week.